Striving for better picture quality on our videos is something that all of us who make videos try and do. But it can be quite easy to overlook the importance of audio in your videos, when in reality we're much more likely to click off a video if the audio is bad rather than the video is bad. I think we can put up with the resolution of a video being a little bit low, or it being a bit over or undersaturated, or the light not being that good, if it's still clear and easy to understand what the video is about. However, if the audio is bad, if it's extremely low, there's a lot of background noise, or the audio levels are too high and it's been crackling all the way through, I think you're much more likely to turn off then. That's why it's really important to get the best quality audio that you can on your videos. And in this video, we're going to go through a few different things that you can do to improve your audio. Some of them are just going to be tips and tricks of things that you can do for free, and other things are products that you can buy to enhance your audio if you have the budget. But before we get started, if you haven't seen any of my videos before, I make lots of videos about tips and tricks for Sony E-mount cameras, so if that sounds like your sort of thing, please consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like on the video. So first we're going to look at things that you can do to improve the quality of your audio for free. And the first of which is try and control the environment that you are recording in. Now for me in here, I'm recording at a time of the day when no one else is in the house, it's quiet outside, and which means there's as little background noise as possible, and which means my voice should be nice and clear without any background noise to distract the viewer. You can also take this into consideration if you are recording outside. Now this becomes a lot more problematic because wind makes a lot of noise and there's obviously a lot more ambient sound. But if you can control your environment so it's as quiet as possible, it will help improve the quality of your audio a lot. Other things that you can do, especially if you're recording inside, is if you're recording in a room, for example, with hardwood floors and not many soft furnishings in there, you'll probably get a lot of echo in the room, a lot of reverb kind of sound, which won't necessarily sound awful, but it will add a little bit of distraction in the video. When you want your voice in your video to be as clear as possible, this can be a little bit distracting, and it doesn't sound quite as professional. So the first thing that you can do in the room that you're recording is just clap. Now, was there a lot of reverb on that? Well, there's still a little bit. There is a carpet in this room, there's some soft furnishings, but it still might bounce around a bit. So if there's anything that you can do to improve the quality of that, it's quite simple really, just add more things that absorb sound into the room. So that could be as simple as adding a rug or adding a few extra cushions in the room, even if you're just bringing them into the room and taking them back out after you finish recording. Anything to help deaden the sound will vastly improve the quality of your audio. And that little clap test you can do, if you can hear the clap echoing around the room, then that's what your voice will sound like on the recording. Another quick tip is keep the microphone that you're recording your voice with as close to you as possible. Well, not as close as possible, but basically not in your mouth, but as near as is reasonable to keep the mic out of shot if that's what you want. So my mic is just out of shot here so that it's still pretty close to me, but also you can't see it in the shot. Now, if you don't mind it being in the shot, I'd keep the microphone around 6 to 10 inches away from your mouth, which means that your voice will be the focus of what the microphone is picking up. Another quick and easy tip to do is just do a little test recording, talking in the way that you will on your video, and see how that sounds. And if you need to boost the audio a lot, then you're going to start getting a bit of background noise because you're basically raising the level of the entire track. Or if it's too loud and it's peaking, which basically means it's going into the red, then you might start experiencing distortion. So I would drop this down so that you're averaging it around somewhere around -6 to -12 decibels. That means that you don't have to raise things too much if you drop below that, but also if you start peaking and you start getting a bit louder because you get a bit excited, you're not going to make the audio peak, which isn't going to ruin the rest of your audio track. There's also lots of tweaks around compression and EQ that you can do in your editing software afterwards. Now this could be a whole nother video by itself, so if this sounds interesting to you, let me know in the comments and I'll make another video all about this. But now we'll go on to some things that you can buy that can improve the quality of your audio immensely. So a lot of you will probably be like me. When you first started recording, you're using the inbuilt microphone on your camera. I'm using the Sony A5100, which has stereo mics built into the camera. Great, you can start recording straight away without any extra equipment. The issue is with this microphone, especially if you're a little bit further away, like now the camera is much further away than my microphone, is that you'll start picking up a lot more ambient noise of the room, even if it is a quiet room like this. And I noticed after a while this microphone does start to sound pretty echoey and just not really high quality. And in fact, I started getting comments on some of my older videos about the quality of the audio, and that's when I knew, yeah, okay, it's time to upgrade. So this is an example of what the camera mic audio sounds like in comparison to the microphone that I'm using now. You can see it doesn't sound quite as clear, and there's that little bit of background noise included in there as well. Mostly pretty usable, but you can probably tell the difference, especially compared to the main microphone that I'm using. Now, unfortunately, the Sony a5100, like a lot of smaller cameras, doesn't have an audio jack input, which means that you can't plug in a microphone directly to the camera. You can't record audio through the camera instead of using the mic audio. A little bit of a frustration, but all this means is that you just need to pick up an external audio device. Now, for cameras that do have a mic input or have a hot shoe, which is this little section on the top of the camera, you can get microphones that are designed to plug in to the camera and record directly to them. Now, I won't talk about them too much as I don't personally use them, but they're definitely something worth considering if you want to simplify your workflow as much as possible and record everything on one device at the same time. But the first device I'm going to talk about is one that I use for quite a while, well, and still do use for some recording situations, and that's a little audio recorder like this. Now, this is essentially a dictaphone, a microphone that you would use for recording meetings, interviews, stuff like that. But I found it's pretty useful for videos like this. Now, as you can see, it's extremely compact and really lightweight, and I think it cost around £50, about $60, something like that. So not immensely cheap, but it is definitely something worth considering. Now, where it really comes into its own is recording outside. Because it's so small, I can have it in my pocket. I can either use the microphones that are built in on the top there, which you can see, or you can use the mic input, which is there, to plug in a microphone like a lapel or lav mic, which you just put on your collar, which you often see people using on TV and stuff like that. This is great because the microphone is really close to your subject, and it's perfect if you're recording outside, especially if it's windy, and I've used it in situations like that before. And also, I did used to use this microphone for recording my videos in the studio. I would just use the stereo mics on the top, and I'll press record now, and that sounds a bit like this. Now I think the audio quality is much improved because you can have it so much closer to your mouth than the microphone on the camera, and it's designed to record voices as clearly as possible, so I think it sounds pretty decent. Not perfect, but a good all-rounder, especially as compact as it is, and compared to a lot of other microphones, very cheap. This is called the Sony ICD PX470. For some reason, Sony always have ridiculously long product names, but there we go. There are plenty of other things similar to this available on the market, but if you like the look of this one in particular, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. In fact, I've made a full video review of this unit, the pros and cons, and how it works, which I'll leave a link to in the description as well if you want to check that out. So as I said there, I was using the Sony ICD PX470 for my in-studio videos for a long time, but now I actually use that microphone just for outside and bits of recording that aren't in the studio, and for all the rest of my recording, I use a dedicated microphone, which is plugged directly into my PC, because basically when I'm recording videos, I'm always next to my computer. The microphone that I'm using is a Shure SM58, which is a microphone that has been on the market for years and years and years, which is a dynamic microphone, usually used for live vocals and stuff like that. But basically it's a really simple microphone with a really clean signal, which I find is really great that if your voice is a little bit too low, you can boost the volume quite a lot. There's just so little interference and background noise, it just makes it a really easy option for me. Now, because this is a microphone with an XLR connector rather than a USB, it means that it has to go through an audio interface. Now, the one I'm using is a Complete Audio 6 by Native Instruments. By no means is this type of setup absolutely necessary, but because I already record music and microphones for other things that I do, I already had this set up, so it was a good option for me to have this microphone with that kind of input because I use that input for things like guitars and other microphones. If you like the sound of the setup that I'm using in particular, of course I'll leave links to that below, but you can also get microphones with USB connectors so you can miss out the middleman of the audio interface. So there are things like the Blue Yeti microphone, which is a big one for YouTubers, live streamers and stuff like that, which has got really clear audio, really simple to use, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Hopefully you can notice the difference where my voice sounds crisp and clear with very little background noise or interference, which I think definitely helps improve the overall quality and professionalism of your videos. Now, for my setup, the microphone and the audio interface, you're probably looking at around £80, $90 for the microphone, and probably around £100, $100-ish for an audio interface or a similar one. So that's obviously around a $200 outlay. Now I think for the Blue Yeti microphone, you're probably looking at around $120. So a bit cheaper, but I think it's only worth really investing that much more in your setup when you're being much more serious about your videos and you're noticing that the audio quality isn't quite what you want. I think personally it does make a big difference and it's helped improve the quality of my videos a lot. But I think it is just worth bearing in mind, and you might be able to find another option that works for you in the short term. Stuff like even recording the audio on your smartphone, you just using the audio recorder. If you can get that in a good position and the mic quality is good enough, then that might just be an improvement over the built-in mics on your cameras to start with. Play around with the options that you've got before spending the money, but improving the quality of your audio in any way that you can, you'll definitely start seeing the results in your final videos. So there we go, that was my tips and tricks and products that you can buy to improve the quality of your audio. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are lots of things that you can do on the software side of things to also improve the quality of your audio. If that sounds like something that you guys want to see, please let me know in the comments and I'll make a video about that. But as always, if you've enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like on the video. And you can check out my photography on Instagram at aaron.prescott. But that's it from me for now. Until next time, see ya.